I'm excited for this one, y'all. We're talking sex bucket list today, which I'm jazzed about. This is going to be a really fun and playful topic today, so I'm excited. Feel like the last couple episodes have been really digging deep into things like about sexual shame and sexual frustration and what to do and whatnot. So I'm excited to bring different energy today to this podcast. Still battling this sinus infection thing, depending if you're listening to these episodes in real time or not, but we're at the tail end, so feeling good about that. But I brought on another sex coach friend of mine, Jenay, and she's done an episode on her podcast. She is the host of the My Naked Mindset podcast, if you want to check that out. And I saw her posting on social media about this, and I thought, you know what, this is a great topic. Let's bring you on the show, and I'd love to have you talk about this on my podcast. And so Jenay is a certified relationship and life coach, again, the host of the My Naked Mindset podcast, which is really a sex taboo dating topics podcast. And she originally created this podcast after going on 20 first dates in 2019. Let me just note she got married just last week, so that's exciting. And on her podcast, she creates a safe place for guests to come on and share their experience and their expertise on these said taboo topics, which we know, of course, right? We do the same thing around here, right? Sex still in 2024 still so taboo. So makes you clench your butthole a little bit when you're talking about it. So we're excited to jump into this sex bucket list. So let me bring on Jana. I know she's patiently waiting in the waiting room. So let me bring her in and let's get the show on the road. All right. What's up, Janae? Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Newly married lady over there. Is Lambert the new name or is that your maiden name?
That is the new last
That's the
name,
new
yes.
name. Okay, exciting. Is it fun to like say that now and try that on?
Yes, it's so weird though, because my previous last name, my maiden name is Ledger, so I'm always gonna be JML, which is
Oh,
kind of nice.
yeah,
So
that is nice. Yeah, I
yeah.
went from Rab to Ram. So when I got married, I was like, I don't mind Ram. That's kind of sexual, so that sounds good.
Oh, I love that. That's so
Ram.
funny.
Yeah. Fun. Well, congratulations. Your pictures have been very
Thank
fun to
you.
see, and I'm very happy for you guys.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
For sure, for sure, for sure. So yeah, when I kind of giggled a little bit when I was recording your intro because you said that you had went on 20 first dates in 2019, and then I said, spoiler alert, she is now married. So right, we kissed a lot of frogs to get to the prince. Did you ever did you ever expect that you would be in this industry, like working and talking about sex and having a sex podcast?
Ooh, that's such a good question. I think ever since I like lost my virginity and I started having sex, I think I was always intrigued about it. My friends always came to me, like I was always the go-to person to ask questions and be like, is this normal? So I think it actually makes sense that this is what I'm doing. And like I've always loved to talk about these subjects, but I think ever since I kind of went on all those dates and kind of experienced different things, it's just been like the natural progression to what I'm interested in. So I think it does make sense, but it also is kind of cool to just be like, hey, this is what I do.
Mhm.
And I'm sure you get the different reactions as well, but I just think owning it and I love what I do. So it's something that I'm really passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember too, and I think like podcasts are such a great resource as well. Mac agrees if you can hear him barking in the background. Yeah, I think it's such a great resource too because we are talking about these different topics and right, like people have questions and sometimes I think people are lucky to have, not to like boast us up, but you and I in their lives, right? Because we
Yeah.
have that safe place for people to come and ask questions to, but not everybody is going to ask a friend or ask a doctor or ask a parent, right? And so I think
Hmm.
podcasts are such a great way that people can kind of sneakily get this information over to them and I think eventually, right, like we have a lot of like those shadow listeners. I'll get
Hmm.
messages, I'm sure you get the same, of like, I love your podcast, I just binged every episode. I'm like, what? Like I would have never imagined. Like, thank you so much for listening, but I love that
Yes.
feedback and then hopefully inspiring them to have conversations with their friends too around this stuff, or just saying, I was listening to this podcast, what do you think? Right? We're talking sex bucket list today. Like, what would be on your sex bucket list? What a fun dinner conversation.
Yes, I love it so much. And it is fun to like hear what people are enjoying and stuff like that. But yeah, the sex bucket list. Yeah,
Mhm.
it is something that is is so much fun. Do you want to get into it?
Yeah, I do. Because I want,
Okay.
like, okay, so I feel like it's very generally, like, when you hear sex bucket list, you're like, oh yeah, I can guess what that would be. But how
Mm.
did you, like, how did this even come across your radar? Like, what made you even think about creating this or this idea of this?
Yeah, so it's funny. So I actually had a podcast with another sex coach. And I think we randomly started talking about like, oh my God, it would be such a cool idea to start a sex bucket list. So I kind of me and her talked about it, and then I was kind of like, ooh, I think I'm just gonna run with this and like create content about it. I created a worksheet that's on my website, and we kind of just yeah, I mean, I definitely give her credit. Steph Morris, I don't know if you're
Mm,
familiar with her, but she is awesome. I love her. And so yeah, we kind of just started talking about it. And I was like, you know what? This could be a really good way to share something maybe that you've been afraid to say with your partner, or something you've always wanted to try, but you've never had the guts to like bring it up.
mhm.
And I think it's a really cool, like collaborative piece that you can kind of do with your partner. So that's kind of a little bit of an overview of like how I came up with it.
Yeah. So people can create them individually. So like I can have my own, he can have his own, and then would you then create like one together as a couple or sort of merge them to create one for the couple?
Yeah, so what I usually recommend is exactly that. Like one partner makes theirs, the other partner makes theirs, and so this is what I did. So, like I said, just said we made our own. And then I said, okay, we're gonna go on a date night.
Mm,
And we actually went to like this restaurant bar that was like kind of busy. And I said, okay, Tyler, we are going to exchange our list, and then we're gonna combine them and make one, exactly like you said.
mhm,
But I think it was kind of fun to do in a public space, because I think it was like that excitement of like, oh my God, what if the waiter comes over when we're literally in the middle of like talking
mhm,
about it? It was almost like that hypeness, like I don't know, just like that excitement of like, ooh, like what is it called? Exhibitionist, I think it's
mhm,
called. So
mhm,
like that is something that I'm always interested in. And so I think that kind of added the layer to it. But I think obviously whatever you feel comfortable with, I think if that's terrifying to you, maybe you just do it at home. But I think making a date night to combine the list is so much fun. And then you can kind of see like, oh, me and my partner both wanted to do this. Let's add this to our combined list. Or this is something I've never thought of that my partner had on their list. I'm going to add that to the combined one. So,
mhm. Yeah, I really like that idea of like doing it in public because I think right when I'm thinking of the couples that I'm working with, especially couples in long-term relationships, they're looking to
mhm.
try to get that spark back. And I think that an exercise like that, right, when you think about back when you were first dating, right, you're out in public together, you catch eyes or you're sneaking a kiss or sneaking a makeout session in the bathroom or the hallway or something like that. And I think yeah, again, I think even just conversations about sex when you're at dinner with the risk of other people hearing or whatnot, of course, keeping it. I'm not even gonna if you want to talk freely, talk freely. I'm not gonna yuck
Yeah.
you. But yeah, I think that was a good tip. I like that.
Yeah. And I think it's just like I said, like the fantasies, or maybe you've always wanted to, for example, have a threesome and you're like, oh my gosh, how am I going to explain this to my partner? But I think keeping it like that judgment free zone, like no matter what they have on theirs, no matter what you have on yours,
Hmm.
it's a safe space. And I think kind of telling that to your partner from the get-go, like, hey, I want to do this thing. There's no judgment. I want to know what you want to explore. I want to know what your fantasies are. I want to know what you want to experiment with. So I think it's saying that up front is gonna be like a successful combining of the lists.
Yeah, I like that. And so, okay, so you have this conversation with another sex coach, you run with it. Tell me about the worksheet that you have on your website. This is something that people
Mm.
can download on your website.
Yes, yeah. So I also have an episode about it. It's kind of just like a solo that I did. But then I was like, I really want like something that someone could print out and kind of begin the process. So it's basically a worksheet, and it kind of like describes what you're gonna do. And then I actually have other pages for like if you wanted to write them out, partner one could write out theirs, partner two could write out theirs, and then I have like a combined list. So I actually just did mine on my phone because it was just like the first
Mm-hmm.
time that I kind of created it. Um, but I always recommend, folks printing it out and just kind of making it, like I said, really fun for them. You can also put it in your phone too, like in your notes app or whatever, because then I think it's fun, like when you do one of the sex bucket list items to like check it off. And then like you kind of bring back that excitement of like, ooh, like which one should we do next? I mean, obviously some are spontaneous, some might just happen, but I think kind of putting it either, like I said, it physical or like in your phone can be such a good way to keep
Mm-hmm.
it top of mind. Cause right, sometimes we do these things and then we're like, oh, like I had that lube that I haven't even tried yet, but it's just in my closet. Like I kind of forgot about it. So you bring it back out. This
Yeah.
is another thing that can be like a really fun excitement to kind of bring back in, like you were saying, spicing it up, keeping it entertaining, especially in a long-term relationship.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I appreciate that you created a tool for people because this is often conversations too when you're thinking about fantasy. Fantasy keeps coming up around this sex bucket list idea, and I think sometimes people struggle. It's like I don't know what I want. Like I don't know what I fantasize about. I don't have fantasy. I don't have sex goals, if you will. So help having this tool for them to be able to get those juices stirring. My podcast yesterday was on like spicy novels, like romance novels, and like
Ooh,
that. And like if you're not reading either short stories or listening to like sexy audiobooks or something like that, I'm like that is such a great way, like that hit tapping into that creative outlet too when you hear these characters doing things or even in movies, right? Like you're like, wow,
yeah.
let me add that to my bucket list. Like I would definitely
Right.
have to happen.
Right. I love that. And too, like, yeah, like spicy audio, or like if you enjoy watching porn, like you can like be like, oh wow, I've never thought to do this. And you're watching a video or hearing, erotic audio, and you're like, ooh, this is a really good idea to add. And I think it can be like a always improving, always adding to this list, right? Because you might check some things off the list, and then you're like, oh shit, like we've done 10 of the things, like let's start adding more. And
Mhm.
then again, having that collaborative date with your significant other, I think can just be so fun to learn more about them too, right? Because this is also a learning experience you get to do together, which I think is, again, so important for any relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like just fun exercises like this. So it's not like, okay, we're sitting down, we're having the sex talk, right? Like
Right.
things aren't going the way that we want them to. What do we do? It doesn't, and that's constant conversations. Like we can make this playful again, like make
Yeah.
this fun again. It doesn't have to feel so rigid, even if things haven't been going how you want them to. It's like we all go through those ups and downs. And you shared that lube experience. I'm like, I just had a similar experience. I'm looking for a charger to one of my vibrators and I'm digging through all these drawers and I come across my blindfold. I'm like, well, fuck. I'm like, when's the last time I
Ooh.
even put on a blindfold? Like we these things that we get in the grooves of, right? There was a phase in my life where I'm like, I love the blindfold. Like it's one of my favorite sex toys. And then right now I'm in this slump of like, man, this is where are you, old friend?
Yeah. It
Never
is.
come
It
across
is so
it.
right. It's so fun when you find those things and you're like, ooh, because I actually recently did that. Um, Funny enough, like when we went on our honeymoon, I brought the blindfold. I brought a couple little like things just to play around with, and I was like, ooh, like this is kind of fun. And then we got a cock ring recently, like
Mhm.
a chargeable one. So you don't have to, like the one,
The cord and all that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So it's like really nice to have those things that again, like it's fun to experiment and try out new things and stuff that's been in your closet and you're like, oh my gosh, totally forgot about this. So
Mhm.
really fun way to spice it up.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk about you have some ideas for a sex bucket list. I would love to
Mm,
hear what some things are that you have for us.
yes. So I think one thing to start out on, and this is on the worksheet as well, is think about like locations. Like maybe you're experimenting, maybe you don't haven't done anything like crazy wild, and you're like, I really want to start doing it in other places, right? So I think about specific locations. I think that's a really good starting point. So maybe you want to have sex on an airplane, maybe you want to have sex in all 50 states while you're traveling. Maybe you want to have it in a car. Believe it or not, I've never had sex in a car, which is so crazy. So that's on my list.
Mhm.
So I think specific locations. Another idea that I think is so sexy is this is actually on my list, having sex at a party, but like in a separate room. So meaning like, you know, Thanksgiving party or like a Friendsgiving, like let's go off
Mhm.
into another room. No one's gonna know. I think that's super sexy. So that's something that's on our list. I think a location is a really good place to start. A golf course, right? That's sexy. I think that's so much fun.
Mhm.
Maybe it's something like on a dock on a lake, right? Like something cool like that. So I think specific locations, and then you're gonna think of maybe some like BDSM or temperature play. So maybe you always wanted to try like a paddle or handcuff, something like that. Definitely start exploring some of these different options of BDSM because I think that can be really playful and experimental. And obviously, if you need some ideas, I mean, Google shit has
Mhm.
Instagram, like TikTok, all of the things. They have so many great ideas and just kind of get like your juices flowing.
Mhm.
I think another really good idea is like maybe you've always wanted to go to a sex party. I think that that's something that's really intriguing and interesting. You know, that I've heard like so many people on my podcast have been to them, and I'm like, shit, like that sounds really fun. So I think maybe you're wanting to explore, you know, other people or other like I said, sex parties, threesome. Maybe you want an orgy. Maybe you want to do a cuckolding situation. I mean, there's so many different options that you can really bring into this list, which I think that's what makes it so much fun.
Mhm.
And like you said, erotic audio, I think watching porn together, maybe you want to do a little role playing. So
Mhm.
those are some of my ideas
Mhm.
for, you know, to get the juices flowing, get some ideas
Yeah.
thrown out there.
Yeah, I agree with the location. I think that that's a big one. And if you think of just like the classic bucket list, right? Like travel is probably a big thing for a lot of people planning
Yeah.
there. One thing that came to my mind would be like different positions. So maybe like going
Mm,
through every position in the Kama Sutra book or something like that, you know, or yoni massage, like tapping into like more spirituality stuff, but like in different types of sex. Um,
right.
think of like erotic blueprints, like, okay, I want to experience an energetic orgasm. I want to experience a cervical orgasm. I want to experience a nipple orgasm, like, you know, G-spot orgasm for some people. Yeah, I think that that would be really neat. And when you were speaking about this too, like the want, will, won't list or a yes, no, maybe list kept
Mm,
coming up. So I think that might be another cool tool to like accompany with this because again for those people that are just truly stuck and it's like I don't know what I want, that want what won't lists out all the things right, like it's
yes.
almost 20-page thing of all these different sexual acts, and so then maybe from that you could create, you know, or even expand on that for your bucket list, like yeah I want to be licked and touched and sucked and all that here, but like
Right.
add that location piece in or add that. Yeah, I think like location piece would be the biggest one.
Oh, I love that idea. The yes, no, maybe list. That's a good starting point too. Like you said, if you're stuck or you're like, oh, I'm not sure what to add to this, like start exploring. And then I think also on the other side, seeing what your partner is into. And maybe there might be something that you come across that you're like, they say, hey, like I'm not really I appreciate you being open to trying this out, but maybe that's like a maybe option on our list. Like I'm still not comfortable with that. Maybe I need to learn more about it. I think it's kind of starting that conversation of
Mhm.
just like the comfortability and kind of setting some boundaries within your list together.
Yeah. Yeah, and definitely not shaming anybody for something that they have on their bucket list and like let's, you
Right.
know, validate people and work on that. And yeah, a bucket list is a bucket list, right? Like something there's tons of people that have these that might not achieve all of the things on their bucket list before
Right.
they kick the bucket, quite literally. Um so yeah, just being mindful of that. And yeah, you mentioned like sex parties, right? Like so many people are in
Yeah.
this monogamous era of their life, and it's like who's to say that 10, 15, 20 years from now you might be monogamish, right? You might
Right.
and expand those boundaries a little bit more to make some of these bucket list items more acceptable or attainable for you.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think it can be ever changing. You might put something on there and you're like, "You know what? Actually, I don't really feel like doing that anymore," and you take it off. Like, I think it can be something that's come always evolving, which I think is fun. So, I would love to share a story of one of my bucket list items that we did on our honeymoon.
Oh my gosh, yes, please do.
Okay, so I have always had a dream, or I guess a fantasy, of having sex on the beach. And I know that that's like, oh my gosh, like it's a drink, whatever. Like I feel like it's such like a, oh yeah, having sex on the beach, that sounds so fun, but like the sand, whatever.
Mhm.
So me and my husband, the last night of our honeymoon, we went for a nice walk on the beach, right? And it's funny because there was a lot of stray dogs in St. Martin. So we're like walking on the beach, and this beach is also a nude beach. So I also wanted to take my top off, and he was like, "Fine, Jenay, like just do it." So I'm like literally walking around with my top off. It's dark, it's beautiful. I'm like, this is like the best thing ever.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, a dog, like pretty large dog, starts running at us, and I'm like, is this dog gonna like literally attack us? And it was like kept barking like as we're walking right next to us. So I'm kind of freaking out. I'm like, okay, this is not good. Like I have my top off. I'm like, what if I get attacked by the dog and I'm literally like nothing on my top
Yeah.
area? So I was like, okay, put my top on. Finally, the dog goes away, but then another one starts barking at us. I'm like, we just need to go back to the Airbnb. Like this is too much. So then we calmed down. The dogs are away from us, and I said, this is the perfect time to have my fantasy
Mm.
become like come to fruition, right? So there's this really gorgeous like restaurant that's actually closed. It's like literally on the beach. So there's like this gorgeous path. It's like palm trees just surrounding it. It feels like you're in like a movie when you walk through it. And there's this like bar again that's like kind of set up, but nothing's there because the restaurant's closed. And I said to Tyler, I said, all right, you know what? Let's do this.
Mm.
So literally, I'm bent over the bar on like the sand. It's literally on the beach.
Mhm.
The sand is like on my feet. And I just like bent over and we had the funnest sex. Like, obviously, it was so sexy. The sand, the ocean. I mean, it was perfection. And I was like, this is my dream. And we just did it. It was so much fun. So I highly recommend, even
Yeah.
if you're a little nervous, like try out something. Like obviously be careful. Like I was a little nervous. I'm like constantly looking around, make sure no one's walking by. But it
Mhm.
was such a fun experience. And I'm so glad we get to check that off the bucket list on the honeymoon.
Yeah. So is Tyler, he's like down for your crazy adventures and like your bucket list stuff?
Oh yeah. Yeah. He was like, Jay, like there's no one around. Like it's fine. And I was like, okay, we're doing it. And again, so glad that we did it.
Yeah. Ah, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. That sounds very
Yeah.
fun. And yeah, I like the idea of like, okay, I'm standing, I'm leaning against something because I don't want to be laying in the sand by any means. Like,
Absolutely not. No sand up there, please. So it was nice that we had something to bend over on. It was perfect.
mhm. Yeah. Oh, that's so fun. Yeah, I think location is definitely a biggest one for us. Like definitely you mentioned like
Mm.
plane, like not I've not had sex on a plane, but I've orgasm on a plane. So I feel like I
Ooh,
feel like I'm part of the Mile High Club with that one. So
hell yeah. Wait,
yeah.
did you masturbate on a plane?
No, well, yeah, so I guess this is more than one time. So yes, yes,
Love that.
and then one another time like he was giving me some manual stimulation like under my blanket while we are on the plane. So
I love that. That's hot. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
it's like me, Danny, random man sitting next to Danny that was sleeping.
Hey, you're gonna take advantage of that. Hey, you're sleeping. I'm gonna
Yeah,
get some.
thank
That's
you.
awesome. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fun one. I think especially yeah, you're tapping
Yeah.
into like that voyeur exhibitionist type stuff. I think that's really a big one. And I'm glad that so exhibitionist is somebody that likes to be seen and a voyeur is somebody that likes to do the watching just for people that are listening. And
Mm,
I think it's helpful just to be able to put a name to that because I think it's like why do I get turned on by this or why does this sound exciting for me? I think that's fun because you might be a little bit more kinkier than you thought you were, you know?
right, right. And yeah, exploring those and doing some more research on them to see like, hey, would I because I believe that there's a BDSM test you can do, right?
Yeah, bdsmtest.org.
Yes.
You can do like I'll use air quotes, a mild version or a wild version.
Yes. Okay, I did take that. And that might be also a good option, like the yes, no, maybe list, the BDSM test, just to kind of see like get ideas again, like really get the juices flowing to create your dream list. So I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, and again, it's like you're trying to do these things to take you back to those beginning days, like because what
Right.
happens in long-term relationships, right? We get comfortable, things set in, we get in that autopilot, and
Mm,
literally scientifically, your brain is not producing those hits of dopamine, right? This shiny new thing is not shiny and new anymore. It's your, your ratted up pair of white sneakers, that need to be
right.
that sounds terrible. I hope nobody refers to their partner as ratted up white sneakers. That's a little extreme, but you get what I'm saying, right? It just becomes a comfortable, it becomes a norm. So when you do things like this, like making a sex bucket list, want, will, won't list, BDSM tests, erotic blueprints, like all these things, it's like, okay, you're getting those hits of dopamine, you're getting those hits of excitement, and you're getting new ideas. Because for
Mhm.
so often it's like if we bring in the sex education piece of it, right? We're not getting pleasure focused sex ed as
Right.
young adults. And so I really feel strongly it's not until you start listening to sex podcasts, working with a sex coach, sex therapist, right? Like people just aren't open, like people don't realize that this stuff is out there, that these tools are out here. So I appreciate this topic today. I think it's fun and playful. And when I recorded the intro, I said like my last couple episodes have been like really digging in there, like really getting deep with stuff. So this was a
Yeah.
nice, refreshing change. I like it.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Yeah, this was great. So much fun. And yeah, have fun with it. I think explore new options, make it a date night.
Mhm.
Really just put your brains together and just enjoy it. Judgment-free zone.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, vacation is the
Mm,
ideal time to be able to try some of those things, right? Because it's like, I'm never going to see these people again. And if
right.
I get caught, like, okay, don't arrest me, hopefully, but
Right, exactly.
get the bail money. Um, but yeah, so this website, you mentioned your website, like people can go and get this PDF. Can you please share that? So for people that are listening that want to grab that, where can they find it?
Yes, absolutely. So you can connect with me, My Naked Mindset, on all social media, and in that is my website, and then it will be in the freebies tab.
Mhm.
And then, like I said, you can print it out, you can use it, put it in your phone. And yeah, that's how you can connect with me and find the worksheet.
Awesome. Yeah. And definitely give Jenay a follow on Instagram too. I'll make sure to link her socials, but as she said, it's My Naked Mindset. And yeah, you post some good reels, some good content. I know you have some cute little bookmarks for those smart readers out there. So I appreciate all that you're doing. And yeah, you just always have this like fun, playful energy to you. So I appreciate you.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so sweet. I so appreciate you having me on today. It was a blast.
Yes, of course. We shall have you back again because this was a fun day.
Yay! I can't wait.